Welcome back to Q Dads, guys. It's me, Ben, and yes, I'm bringing you Earth Abides, which is MGM's latest series. And just as an offset, before I dive into this show, if you've not seen it or planned on watching it, then actually I do recommend this. And I am saying this with a slight hesitation because certain parts of the episode just annoy me, like MGM's self-capitalizing product placement with the MGM Grand Conference in Las Vegas. Or the fact that the camera angles just really grind me up with that in and out of focus continuously happening throughout and for a longer time than it should. But then on the other hand, it was nice, relaxing show as it follows a man and his dog travelling this empty shell of a planet in a search of humanity or at least some kind of hope. So as we dive into this, I am going to be going on a few pros of the show, but also a few cons as well. And I actually do recommend this, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of episodes to see if it does continue how it started and picks up the pace and just does that little bit more to get me firmly hooked. So of course, before I do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well, because we'll be keeping you up to date not only with this show but also another show about the loss of humanity, which is of course Silo, and we'll be bringing you our episode 4 of that this week. So Earth Abides is essentially about a man called Ish and his dog Lucky, who he actually only stumbled upon after angrily driving his way through Nevada. And towards the end, we skip a year of time, and as we get a bit of a montage of bits of him training, eating, trying to survive, as well as boredom and the absolutely loss of will that makes him drive around in circles continuously. He then goes on to see what Lucky is barking at. And of course, in the horizon is smoke from a recently lit fire, which only indicates someone else is alive. Now, this is a very cliche thing and was not a surprise at all. And I think most of these end-of-the-world lone survival shows and films always reveal someone else alive. And I'd rather have it been a bit more dramatic, like the show The Last Man on Earth, where he goes through a red light and gets hit by another car. But I suppose this is following a predetermined story. And talking of the predetermined story, I am diving into this fully unaware of the books, as we do with all of our shows. So there'll be no book spoilers here, and please respect that in the comments if you have read the book. This is just my speculation about the show and who these characters are. So obviously, we know from the posters that this is going to be a female, and they're essentially going to start this journey together. But I am interested to see where her journey is and if we get a flashback to her beginning as well. Because I was actually quite surprised to flip forward a whole year in this show, which means that a lot could have happened, and I wonder if we're going to get any more time jumps as well moving forward. Now, there are some bits of the episode which I did love. One, of course, was just the whole lone survival element for me. This is something that I really enjoy, and this episode and this show does it great with the slow scenes that are not hinting too much at anything and they're not pushing things in your face. It actually adds a little bit of realism to the show as well. So like with many other survival shows, the hero is always knowledgeable and he knows everything, mostly some kind of scientist. And now, yes, Ish is a geologist, but he actually went to a library at some point and started picking up books on how to use solar power energy, fishing and even farming, the kind of things that you need for survival, and that not actually everyone has those sets of skills. And for me, this was just a little great detail they dropped in. As well as this, there was the subtleties, like when he entered his parents' house and just before he ended up burying them, he just moved and straightened the cup to the saucer, and knowing that this is a trait that his parents would have done and would have kind of been passed down to him as well, so just recognising that level of detail was a nice touch. And even the fact that he didn't overstock when he went to the shop. He just got the essentials of what he needed. A few guns, a bit of ammo to survive, not knowing what is actually coming up and what caused the end of the world. And he just grabbed some toilet paper. So I absolutely love it. He's preparing himself for the future and he's not overindulging on junk food and things. He is a key prepper. But on the back of this, there are some things that I really did dislike. And one was actually the introduction of the 2 people within the hotel. Now, I was at first shocked to see them, but their lack of willingness or ability to care to see another human also really shocked me. Now, if they've been left alone for 3 weeks by themselves and then they see another human, surely they would have been speechless, ecstatic even, looking for further answers. But no, he gave them no hope whatsoever, and they continue just to live this facade of a life. And even when that guy who had the gun and said that they will be ending it when the generators kick out. But of course, we didn't have to wait for that time, because as Ish was driving away from the hotel, you hear the 2 distant gunshots, indicating that they've both killed themselves. And of course, the one and main thing that I didn't like was the camera angles. There was a lot of focusing in and out, blurry shots of him coming into focus as the character walks up the stairs, and all these long kind of sound muffling screams as Ish floors it through the highway. I think for me, I would have preferred a little bit more exploration, maybe into some shops, some other houses, rather than this unusual bit of camera trickery. And I think for me, it kind of puts a little bit of a negative spin on it. And also, there is something that I do want to mention. And although this isn't actually a negative for me watching the show, but it's more of a question. Where are all the people? So, when Ish is travelling through the town, there's obviously everyone has died from this illness, and Ish is immune. But there's a lack of people, and considering that we do actually go into Las Vegas, where there's hundreds of thousands of people, probably even millions, there's not a single body lying around. And that's what annoys me. And now, yes, you could argue that they've rushed everyone off to this shelter that they've mentioned. But does that mean that everybody just died in the shelter in a similar way to they did in the church? And even with the church that was full of people that were dead, but yet a casino has no bodies at all. It just felt so unbelievable to me. And the fact that it's been 3 weeks, like how long was he out from that snake bite? And how many days have we skipped from the moment that he first pulled up outside the shop to the moment where he's in the hotel? I'm a little bit unsure of the time jumps we're having here, but obviously none of that matters now because we've just jumped forward a whole year. It's also worth pointing out that Ish was flicking through the Bible in the final scene that we came upon the story of Ecclesiastes, which is actually all about meaninglessness and things being pointless. The whole fact that life doesn't matter what you do because everything ends with death. And I thought that was quite a nice reference to the show, meaning that actually the world's pretty much ended. Humanity's pretty much non-existent. Like, can Ish and others actually recover from this? Who knows? But of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments on what you thought about the series. Like I said, for me, I both loved it and I didn't love it at the same time. And I think I'm definitely going to give it a second shot and maybe watch the second and third episode before I make up my overall decision. And I'm hoping that it'll start swaying me in a bit of more of a positive light. But there's a lot of things that were not necessarily negative, but didn't fill me with any kind of enjoyment. So, how do you think the interaction with this new person and Ish will go? Do you think that Lucky the dog is going to stay with them for a long time? And of course, without any spoilers, if you have read the book, how do you think this is going to end? Now for me, I'm getting some predictions in right now. And I think we're going to see these two travel together. And again, like most end of the world scenarios, we're going to see a group of people that aren't quite as neighbourly as others. And it's all going to end in turmoil. But at the same time, potentially, let's say they're looking for a cure or some kind of lab, something that they've heard is a sanctuary. Because most of these survival shows tend to go that way. World War Z, I Am Legend, The Walking Dead. It's all a very similar trend. And I think that this is probably not going to be any different, especially after mentioning about immunity and this illness. But I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping that maybe at the end we'll suddenly skip forward 20 years and we're still alone. And and yes, because there were some clues at the start of the episode that talked about the length of time passing as Ish did a bit of a narration. So maybe we'll see Ish for the first season and maybe we'll have some new characters 50, 60 years on, going down more of a Planet of the Apes trend, with time passing rather than intelligent apes taking over the planet. But either way, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as I want to keep you up to date with this. And obviously, And obviously I'll be able to start theorising a little bit better, because in this first episode there wasn't actually that much to theorise on. But as I said, give me your thoughts in the comments. Let's get that conversation started, guys. And as always, I'll catch you next time with something new.